What's up, BTL fans? Thank you for tuning in tonight for our continuing coverage of Week 4. Hope everybody's been having a good weekend so far. We are going to have quite a lot of League of Legends this evening for you all to enjoy. Our first match of the night features the Westchester University Rams coming off a very rough series last week where they went down 0-2 to MG Element. Tonight they find themselves facing off against another very strong opponent in Team DPS. DPS easily dispatched Predictive Gaming last week with a 2-0 of their own, and I think they have to be favored again tonight. Should be expected to maintain their place near the top of the table. Here in the caster booth to start things off, once again, I am Chris Crewman, joined by RareAdam, here to bring you all of the action in this first match. Adam, talk to me about these teams. Who are your players to watch, and how do you expect these first few picks to break down?
Yeah, I think they're already going for it with the Victor first pick alongside all of the bands that you can see on the screen there. Honestly, my main players to watch would be your Bad Connection here, as well as Talus in the jungle for DPS. Those are the two players that I'm really curious about because Talus has had a little bit of a crazy split in the sense that they've consistently done well, but they're up near the top of the leaderboard in terms of deaths as well as kills. So they're a player that likes to go in, really get knee deep into all of the action, and they're a player that you have to keep your eye on if you are this side of WCU Rams here. Of course, your Bad Connection as well. The highest ranked player in this lobby, as a matter of fact, is something to point out.
Yeah.
They've sort of been the consistent force in the bottom lane for DPS. So those are my two players to watch in terms of DPS. But I also want to bring to mind that they are playing with two substitutions this week. So curious to see how those play out because subs can always bring a little bit of a different angle to how the game is played and especially what you draft, as shown by the Nico pick here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how those substitutions affect the game plan here for DPS, if at all. Of course, they do still have your Bad Connection and Talus in here, as you already mentioned, Adam. Some very strong forces here, some dominant players going to be taken to the Rift here tonight. And the Lulu pick should enable some kind of carry for your Bad Connection down there, but the Jinx will be picked away over here by Westchester. They've locked in a couple of nice scaling carries for their mid laner and their bot laner here.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the players I'm looking at for WCU Rams as well. Ahada and Please Don't Run It have sort of been the rocks for WCU Rams, who, granted, are coming off of a tough loss to MG Element, but MG Element is our top team, and while DPS is up there at 3-0 as well, they have shown that they are mortal. When they played up against Trebuchet, they did drop a game, and now we know that Trebuchet is better than what their first couple of weeks have shown with a victory on Friday. But overall, I think that DPS is a team that their record may not tell the whole story because of ease of schedule, whereas WC Rams have definitely had the hardest schedule thus far. They've played up against Barber's Fan Club, they've played up against MG Element, now they're playing up against DPS. WC Rams, if they have a good showing here, may start to change people's minds in where they really should be placed in terms of the power rankings as well.
Yeah, well, we'll see if they're able to find the upset here tonight and make a push towards the top of the standings, perhaps. They do have those priority picks for the mid laner and the bot laner, as we already highlighted. See if they're going to be able to get some carrying done here. Going to be the Lucian to round out the first round of picks for DPS. A little bit of a flex pick. Not quite sure where that one is going to be going. Top laner yet to be locked in for the Rams means the Shen and the Kled will be banned away now. Karthus banned away by the Rams, assuming that the jungler still needs to be locked in here. Yes, and the Diana will follow, taking away another one of those AP options for Talus.
You can see that the focus is really on Talus in the jungle. They're getting 4 jungle bans. Hecarim, Ivern, 2 of those champions that he's really comfortable with. We've seen him on the Karthus as well. Very, very strong in that sense. The Diana is another pick that they've played quite a bit. They have a very specific champion pool that they may pull out. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Kha'Zix come through. Oh, never mind, it's a Zac that comes in for Talus here, but realistically, them banning out the Karthus and the Diana doesn't make a whole lot of sense, considering you already have this Nico in the mid lane. Realistically, you wouldn't want to pair another AP champion with an AP mid laner. Makes it really easy for Please Don't Run It on the Victor to just buy Merc Treads, and then you're sitting happy in the mid lane. The Zac is a little bit different because it's just a tank there. Will do magic damage, but I really like how it will pair up with the Nico. You have such long crowd control. It makes it really easy to land the elastic slingshot. And this Zac going to have a couple of difficult lanes to gank, though, with that Poppy locked in, as well as the Thresh. So curious to see how Talus plays this one out.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. I mean, he definitely has that setup there with the Nico. But yeah, the you say the Karthus and the Diana bands don't make a whole lot of sense when we take the compositions into consideration. And I think I do agree, but still, maybe pushing Talus down a few rungs in terms of his personal comfort could be something beneficial for the Rams. They did lock in the Poppy and the Set to finish up their draft over there, so it's looking like it's going to be the Poppy in the jungle. Imagine that is a pretty solid pick into the Zac, I believe. Set blind into the top lane, and counter pick for Mizaya going to be the Aatrox. Is that actually a good pick into the Set? I mean, we've got a lot to talk about, but what are your thoughts on that top lane, Adam?
I think especially in the top lane, Aatrox is sort of, it has become a neutral matchup in a lot of ways. You're able to scale quite well into the later stages of the game. You're not really as reliant on other champions around you as much as say the something else would come. I'm trying to think about what they would play in the top lane. Of course, Mizaya playing top lane here is a substitution. We don't have as much background, but set into Aatrox here specifically should generally go pretty neutral. Both of them going to end up building Gore Drinker. Both of them going to end up getting a lot of healing, be pretty beefy in that front line. So it's just fighter versus fighter. Generally, that tends to be a little bit more neutral, in the sense that none of them really win the matchup one way or the other, but it can be volatile in the sense that if one of them gets a couple too many kills, they can start to run over this game.
Might even see one or both of these top laners taking Ignite into this lane, considering the fact that there is so much self-healing that, like you already referenced. I think the Aatrox pick does make some sense when we consider the fact that the side of Team DPS really needed a little bit more damage to round out their composition here. I mean, Nico does a decent amount of damage, but she's mostly set up. You have the Zac, who's also mostly set up. You know, he's going to offer a lot of engage, has some sustained damage in a fight, but really is more of a frontliner. So I think the Aatrox for Mizaya does make some sense there. I am a little bit worried into the Set, just because I feel like Set wins so many of those melee 1v1s in the early game. But, you know, you're absolutely right. It could go either way.
It's going to be a challenge to see, at least from our perspective here, to see how Mizaya and Queen Lyra really fit into this team, because a big part of what has made DPS really strong is actually Aliskander in the mid lane, pulling out some pocket picks like the Rakan, stuff like that. It has been really interesting to watch them pull out all of these interesting mid lane pickups and then pair up with Talus to move around the map, find a lot of skirmish kills. DPS really a team that's focused around those skirmishes as opposed to those team fights. So I want to see how they end up adapting with this newer lineup, especially against a team that has had some flashes of brilliance in WCU Rams. I want to harken back to their week 1 victory where they were absolutely on fire that entire time. So I think they can rekindle that sort of those winning ways. It really just needs to be about shutting down this roam pressure coming through from DPS.
Absolutely. And you already discussed they had a pretty serious strength of schedule here the last few weeks. So their record doesn't necessarily indicate the strength of the squad over here on the Rams. So they certainly, with the strong team fighting composition that they've drafted for themselves here, they certainly have a chance of outplaying DPS in these big team fights around these objectives that we know are so important in this meta. But I want to move down now towards actually the bottom side of the map. Jinx Thresh is certainly a known quantity here. We've been seeing Jinx for quite a while now, of course. Heckin' Arcane, am I right? But
Yeah.
the Lucian is a little bit more of a more recent reappearance in the meta, and he has been played mostly down towards that bottom side. What are your thoughts on the pairing with the Lulu there? And do you think the Lucian is going to be able to find any kind of early pressure against this notoriously safe and strong Jinx Thresh lane?
I think the biggest factor that Lucian will bring to the table is the early game threat. Jinx likes to have a neutral laning phase, scale up into those later stages, and when you're going with a Thresh, it puts a little bit more early game power into your side, but realistically, against the likes of a Lucian Lulu, who have a lot of early game damage, especially because Lulu can just give your Lucian as many buffs as possible, you can look for those early game kills. Lucian really predicated on getting a kill in lane, trying to snowball that forward, and just being half an item to an item ahead of this Jinx at all times. That's really what Your Bad Connection is looking for in this matchup. This is a lane that the side of DPS have sort of tried in terms of the style with the Tristana in the past. They want to go for these laning kills onto something like a Jinx, whereas Lucian, it's a little bit safer in the sense that you have some less conditional mobility with the dash as opposed to the rocket jump from Tristana. So I think that's where they're going to stake their claim, is trying to find kills on this bottom side of the map, get this Jinx behind, and really put the pressure on Asian Damon to keep this Jinx as safe as possible at all times, because I think that this Lucian Lulu, if you give them maybe 2-3 kills, they're going to take over the game.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Definitely a lot of early power with this Lucian Lulu, and also parallels what you were saying earlier about how your bad connection is such a strong focus for the team. Really likes to put the carry pants on and get that done for the squad. But now that we do see the compositions fully filled out, we've discussed a little bit the strengths of both sides. Do you think one of these teams actually won champion select here, Adam, for game one?
I think on paper, the side of WCU Rams have a more straightforward composition. They've got a very easy front to back 2 carry comp with the Victor and the Jinx in the backline. I think that DPS, though, they have a lot of ways to get into that backline. The Zac is going to be a big sort of PowerPoint in my mind here, because Dissipate playing the Poppy, yes, it is technically a counter, but Poppy's not going to be at every single gank. They're not going to be their first, especially if Talus is finding interesting angles, which is really what Poppy needs to do to keep everyone safe. But at the same time, Talus can look for different angles, look to bait out the W from Poppy to have a way in for the rest of the team. So I think DPS end up winning draft just slightly here, but it's going to be interesting to see how these two teams interact as well.
Absolutely. We'll find out very soon, guys, if the team fighting composition of the Rams will be able to overcome the Giants on the other side of the rift. A couple of early strong picks for the jungle and the bot lane. Who will win? BTL Week 4 continues right after this. Welcome back, folks, on to Summoner's Rift for our first game of the night. A bit of Sunday night League of Legends action for you. Adam, are you expecting some level 1s out of either one of these squads? Looks pretty conservative so far.
I don't think there should be level 1s coming through from either side, especially considering that your junglers are Poppy and Zac. I don't think Zac does anything at level 1. Actually, I know that for a fact. Zac doesn't do anything at level 1, really just wants to sort of clear and do whatever. Really, the only level 1 champions that you've got here is something like the Thresh or the Aatrox, but they're on opposite sides of the map, so unless they were going to do a 5-stack or something, I wasn't going to expect anything to come through. As typical jungle ward's going to come down, and looks like both junglers starting on their bottom side of the map.
Yeah, does appear to be the case. One thing that we did want to highlight, I think, Conqueror for Ahata on the Jinx down there in the bottom side. Something that we haven't seen for quite a while. Lethal Tempo has been certainly the far more popular option recently. Going with the barrier as well down there on the Jinx could be pretty effective into the burst damage coming through from Nico. Any other runes you wanted to highlight?
I think I want to touch a little bit more on the Conqueror in the sense that I can understand in a vacuum why you would take it, especially against an Aatrox, a Zac, who are going to be building a lot of health. The Fear Sparrow as well on this Lulu, you've got that extra buff, so it makes sense in a vacuum, but Lethal Tempo is just so strong, especially when you take into account Jinx's passive where she gets excited, she gets all that attack speed, and you get uncapped attack speed. That's really what makes it confusing as to why there's a Conqueror here on this Jinx. It just feels like you're going to be auto-attacking forever to try and make something happen, and I don't think you have that much time to just sit back and free fire. Yes, there is a Poppy set frontline for you, but I think that Lethal Tempo would just be better for the instant infusion of damage as well as getting that extra range.
Definitely we'll have to try to track that one going forward, see if Ahata is going to manage to stack up that Conqueror. Definitely lost out on getting the early level 2 here. To be expected into something as strong early on here as the Lucian Lulu lane. They are going to be taking over to that first. Talus maybe looking for an early move into mid lane here. Elastic Slingshot will connect. Level 2, Victor didn't stand a chance. First blood for the DPS jungler.
Talus doing a very quick bottom side clear, 3 camps into mid lane. It's not expected on Zac. Normally you think of Zac as like a level 4 jungler, but cleared that out pretty quickly and was able to find the jump and didn't really need any sort of crazy angles with topside.
Dissipate wants to try and find something back. Looking for a play of his own. Kingfisher taking a lot of damage. Messiah has the healing. No, he's ignited. The ignite from Kingfisher, cutting that healing, allowing the jungler to swoop in there, pick up a kill onto the enemy top laner. We're all tied up here, 1-1.
And I don't really mind the ignite coming through from Kingfisher as opposed to the teleport because it is Aatrox. Aatrox is a champion where you have to pay that $800 or not the QSS tax, sorry, the Executioner's tax there, the Grievous Wounds tax because of how much healing they get in lane. Effectively, what ignite does is it saves you that 800 gold in the early game so you can focus on getting your plated steel caps as quickly as possible. As well, you only really need those Grievous Wounds when you're looking to either get a kill or keep yourself alive in some way to sort of prevent that healing from coming down, maybe trade 1 for 1. So Kingfisher taking the ignite means that you have your conditional Grievous Wounds as well as that extra damage, and it obviously made the difference there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked a little bit in the drafting phase in the champion select about how this top lane can be volatile, and Kingfisher really just taking that ignite and wanting to make sure that he is going to be able to win out in that 1v1. Had a little bit of help from the jungler that time, of course, but still looking pretty good so far in the top lane. But now Talus back where he found his first kill, looking for a play onto the Victor, but please don't run it. Actually still had the flash, didn't even expend it after that first gank, so he is perfectly fine this time around. Will indeed just be able to walk that one out.
Yeah, as well, Dissipate was in the area to prevent any sort of extension on that play. Talus backing off there is the right move, I think, in my opinion, just because you don't want to go too deep, especially against the Poppy, who has that sort of counter that we were talking about. And even still, Victor having the flash available, Talus doesn't need to make all these ganks stick with a kill every single time. So long as they're buying space for this Nico in this lane, it's going to help out because, as we can see, already has a Hextech Alternator compared to just the boots from Please Don't Run It, who has also burned that teleport. So that lane is in a really good spot for the Nico already, and play on the bot side, though.
Connecting, but Fear Sparrow just baiting for Talus here, not able to land the slingshot at this time. The stretchy strikes will pull Ahata back. That was the flash off of the Jinx. Now Dissipate is here for the counter gank. Exhaust comes down onto your bad connection. But Lucian looking like he's going to be able to walk that out as well. So no blood down there in the bottom side. Top laners continuing to skirmish back and forth here. Kingfisher coming out on top, able to stack up the Conqueror there and able to win out on that trade.
Yeah, and I think
Dallas back to clearing.
Another factor about that play on the bottom side is just looking at the summoners that were expended. It's the exhaust and the flash off of the Thresh Jinx here. Those are your two main ways of disengaging a Zac play or disengaging this Lucian. There's a lot more agency for the Lucian Lulu to go in now. I expect Talus to make a return gank on that bottom side because there are ways for the Thresh Jinx to stop the Zac from jumping in, specifically the Flame Chompers, the Flay, even the Hook is really good at that, but if they're expended...
goes for the Flay, that's the flash in into the passive double shot. Your bad connection, able to find his first kill of the game. Talus actually cleared his wolves and made his way right back down here to bottom lane. Are they going to go for the dive here? Zac is pretty healthy. He might be able to take it. Jinx is going to have to back off, going to have to lose some minions here. Ahata forced off of the wave, and even a turret plate going over here. The jungler and the support. Oh my god, Ahata! Oh, he's able to pop the barrier and stay alive. No, he does end up getting cleaned up by the Lulu, but a tower shot in return gives a kill back over to the Jinx. Zac will also fall as Dissipate was in the area to clean that up. So ends up being a 2-for-1 play there in favor of Westchester. A little bit overeager on that dive. Poppy's there to punish.
And realistically, that's sort of a Talus play in a nutshell there. Gets the kill, is able to get the kill onto the Jinx, deny her a pretty massive wave as well, but goes down for their efforts. It's very much akin to what we expect out of this player. They're going to go for these aggressive plays. They don't care if they die so long as they're getting some level of advantage, and Jinx gonna miss out on a pretty big wave. It's gonna mean that your bad connection is
Talus.
able to...
He's going in. He wants to find the steal. He gets it. That's the Dragon going over to DPS. Dissipate extremely low as well, trying to limp away with Fierce Sparrow with the last little auto attack, the Lulu auto. That is seen as the deadliest, I suppose, as Zac able to clean up that kill onto the support as well. Meanwhile, in top lane, 1v1 breaking out. Messiah flashes away from the Haymaker. Does he have the healing? He stacks the Conqueror. No, Kingfisher with the right hook will take him out. And mid lane, another 1v1. Talus able to tick over to level 6 there. Fierce Sparrow able to walk out of the gravity well, and Victor is going to be able to stay alive. That was a very chaotic series of fights, Adam.
Oh my goodness.
Talus is not done yet. Goes in with the slingshot, finds the knockback, and Fierce Sparrow is just on a rampage now. 3, 1, and 2 on the Lulu everywhere on the map. And at the end of it all, DPS of about 2,000 gold in a dragon.
Yeah, the Jinx rocket almost takes out the Zac as well, but just really well played overall. Talus has a great series of events. Just as I'm talking about his aggression there, goes in, steals the dragon, able to find a kill, able to set another 2 up in the process, going over to Fierce Sparrow. And like on top side, it's once again Kingfisher able to outplay this Aatrox. We talked about how the Ignite gives you that conditional kill threat there in the top side, and it ends up happening once again. Cuts the healing of Messiah in that World Ender, which is what makes Aatrox so strong in the 1v1. And you know, you've been able to save buying a Bramble Vest, save buying an Executioner's Calling for yourself, and now the Aatrox has to be a little bit more respectful of that because this set has the item advantage here already. So curious to see what continues to happen on this top side. Messiah's done a great job of continuing to farm up very well, but it's still always keeping our eye on how these top laners are going to snowball their game if they can.
Dash hit. Going to need most of a culling there, but does have the Lantern to get himself back out to safety. And yeah, that's a good call out that the Aatrox is actually up decently in CS, but you can see he actually opted for the plated steel caps as the early defensive option there. Talus going in now once again. Kingfisher has his own jungler in the area. 2v2 in the top lane. World Ender popped. Messiah looking for some damage. Kingfisher with a big Haymaker flashed away, trying to stay alive, but on the chase is the Zac Showstopper back in for Kingfisher, able to get some good damage down onto the enemy jungler, and please don't run it. Made his way up here to the fight. Chaos Storm available, not quite able to get in range to finish anybody off, though. So rotation up first for the mid laner of the Rams. Able to allow them to win out in the fight, but nobody going down. On the bottom side, Death Sentence not going to connect. Ahata extremely low, forced out the barrier there. Wild Growth used as well onto the Lucian. The box is not yet learned by Ace and Damon. Thresh not able to tick over to level 6 just yet. There's a couple of close fights there, Adam.
Yeah, it's once again a good summoner trade because it's the heal for the exhaust and the barrier coming through from Ohada and Agent Damon. So it's well played from Your Bad Connection, knowing the power of their champion in this early game, able to consistently burn those summoners on the bottom side. But I actually want to take a look at this top lane once again, because if we actually look at the gold, Messiah is up in gold. Despite dying twice, despite having a kill and assist going over to the set there, they are even or ahead in gold in this game, so they're feeling really safe regardless. They're able to keep pace with this set, and despite the Ignite being that sort of extra X factor of damage that can come through, Messiah's been able to hold their own, and it's a little bit disturbing if you are the set in this situation, because you've done such a great job of keeping this Aatrox down. But if they're even in gold leaving landing phase, they're going to feel pretty happy, because set is really reliant on throwing back Talus or throwing back Aatrox into the rest of the team. But if Aatrox is going to continuously be a threat in the side lane, the longer this game goes, the better Messiah will be in the side lane in terms of finding those solo kills. Eventually, they'll be able to out-heal the
Talus
Ignite.
going in. That's it. A Chompers and a Lantern that is not going to matter. Ahata will fall for the second time this game, and Talus once again finds an angle and gets his team a kill.
And that's the power of Zac. Once you hit level 7, you're able to jump over the big walls on the rift there and still find angles. That's one of the best spots for a Zac to just sit in that little armpit, I want to say, around the Gromp there. But oh my goodness,
Lulu is a menace. He's igniting. He's looking for the solo kill on Ace and Damon. And I think he's got it. The last tick of Ignite. And Ace and Damon just gets completely soloed out by the Lulu. Meanwhile, mid lane Talus with another gank, able to pick up Please Don't Run It underneath his tier 1 tower. And DPS are just coming alive all over the map. They're killing Westchester underneath their structures. This is starting to get a little bit nasty. The gold lead's closing in on 5,000, Adam.
Yeah, this is exactly how DPS have been able to play their games in the past. Despite the substitutions, we can still see that their core 3 members that are still here, Talus, Your Bad Connection, and Fear Sparrow, still have that killer instinct in their eyes, especially last week when we saw Fear Sparrow pull out the brand support in a super aggressive matchup. They've shown that they can play these other champions. It's not just Soraka for Fear Sparrow. They're willing to pull out these other picks and really perform on them. So it's an honorable performance coming through from WCU Rams, specifically from Dissipate, but DPS are just on a different level once again, and it's starting to get a little bit out of control. It's 13 minutes into this game. 5,000 gold lead is pretty substantial at this stage of the game, but looking at the scaling as well, Victor's still going to take a while to come online, especially with how much they've been sort of put down in this early game. This Jinx, as we said, the Lucian lane is all about getting, half an item to an item ahead. That's exactly what's happening thus far, so Ahata's behind the curve as well. If her scaling is this far behind against...
Pop Blossom coming out, flash into the Ignite. Please don't run it. Running out of HP. He's going to flash away himself to try and stay alive. He's on the run in the enemy jungle. Looks like Messiah's going to roam in there, try and track him down. Fear Sparrow. This Lulu is hunting, and he will find the victor. Please don't run it. Able to chug through the corrupting potion. He's going to cling to life for now. Fear Sparrow walking back in. Wants to give it to Aatrox, but Please Don't Run It will not allow that. He will make it 5-1 now for Fear Sparrow on the Lulu. And we can excuse maybe a little bit of this gold lead for the Rams by saying that the composition for DPS is a little bit more, is the stronger skirmishing composition, right? They just have the better early game based on the champions that they've drafted. You were just mentioning, Adam, the scaling that is there on the Victor, on the Jinx. They're going to be able to eventually, presumably, get their items and be strong in the team fights, but with 2 dragons now going over as well, I'm just a little bit worried that they're not going to be able to get there in time.
And that's kind of the point I was getting to as well before Nico, of course, decides to just start a fight. They never want to let me finish my analysis, but yeah, it's the fact that even though you've got this scaling, the people who are the farthest behind are those scalers. So Poppy gonna start to fall off just a little bit, gonna start to run her course in terms of damage output. Yes, she will still be useful in this game because she's a tank, but she's not gonna be the one to be doing the damage. If you have this tank in the front line, you have, the set as your front line, and Poppy as your front line with all of the gold, you sort of end up running out of steam after the fight, and please don't run it.
Oh, please don't run it. He's doing just that. He's not following his own advice, Adam. 0 and 5 now on the Victor. Not a great look.
It's a tough uphill climb now for the side of WCU Rams because they just can't find their groove. It's consistently Talus finding these opportunities around the map, making big plays, and this bot lane is so strong.
Oh my goodness, Talus, we was looking for it, and he just makes it look so easy. It's an easy double kill for your bad connection. Once again, underneath the tower, Jinx and Thresh probably should have known by now that they were not safe there. And that is just going to be an even bigger gold lead, continuing to grow now for DPS.
Yeah, and first turret going to go over to the Lucian and the Lulu as well. Lulu getting all these kills actually isn't the worst case scenario either because Lulu's able to just get all of these items that make Lucian stronger. So while the items may look even between the two 80 carries for now, first of all, Lucian's going to be picking up most likely a majority, if not a full second item here alongside those boots. Whereas Lulu building towards what looks to be an Ardent Sensor or potentially the Chemtech Putrefier means that basically Lucian with the Pocket Lulu available is going to feel like they're on 3 items or 3.5 items. That is the power of what Lulu can provide to a team, and Ahata's got to be careful.
I don't think he even needs Lulu, Adam. Solo kill for bad connection in the mid lane, and that's going to be a Seed connecting. That's a flash away for Dissipate, able to avoid the Pop Blossom coming through from Queen Lyre and able to keep himself alive just barely. But it's just going bad to worse, man. I think at this point, if you're the Rams, you're kind of just thinking about game 2 is what it feels like to me.
Yeah. Potentially, and realistically in that fight that we saw, Lucian was down in items compared to the Jinx. It's just a champion difference at that point. We talked about how Lucian is way stronger in that early game, sort of has that killer instinct available to them, able to go in with all of that damage, and we saw it come out in spades there against Ahata there. You can see Lucian opted for what ends up being a little bit more damage in terms of the combo with the Kraken Slayer, and now top lane,
Kingfisher. Shurelia's popped, yeah, Kingfisher, he's polymorphed, he's a squirrel, and now he's dead, and Messiah able to get out from the tower aggro there. Fierce Sparrow with the Wild Growth on himself flashes away from the Chaos Storm, and that is going to be a double kill for the Aatrox. Dissipate is in the mid lane, trying to make something happen with Jinx, but it's going to be the Zac just flashing on top of the Arcane Star. She will go down once again, as will the jungler. It's a 4-for-0 across the map. They did get a Herald charge, I guess, into the tier 1 tower there for the Rams, but that's not, I don't know if that even counts as a silver lining, to be honest.
It gets really difficult now to see the avenues back into this game for a team like WCU Rams, because while we can talk about their scaling, the 2 scaling picks that we're talking about, the Victor and the Jinx, they're 1-11 combined, right? It's really challenging to find an angle for them to get back into this game, especially now that we saw Messiah on that top side showing what the Aatrox can do if they're given just a little bit too much time alone. Fully completed Gore Drinker now done. The makings of a Death's Dance as well are on the way. Talus now sitting on 2 completed items. Then Nico in the mid lane sitting on that Rocket Belt will be completing another item very soon, and Ahata can't stand here.
No, he's not allowed to be there. He does have a Thresh though. Yeah. So I guess maybe he was allowed.
I don't think they're still allowed. They miss out on a pretty big wave as well, so it's just sort of figuring out what the value of all of this utility is, right? Talus is just going to be able to sit behind enemy lines now, consistently looking for flanks. It's a 2-level difference between the junglers, and Fierce Sparrow is so fed. This is not normal.
This Lulu is basically an assassin just walking through the jungle, as Talus gonna go head on into the mid lane here, gonna get the stretchy strikes onto Jinx once again. Ahata trying to stand and fire here. The Zac is just so tanky, he's not even taking any damage. He's gonna get hooked underneath the tower now. That's Talus going into the passive, actually, and I don't think his team is going to be able to save him. Continuing to take the tower shots here are the Bloblets, and that is a shutdown for Ahata on the Jinx. Thresh will get traded back here, and it looks like the siege will continue even without the Zac. DPS looking for a little bit more. Aatrox underneath the tower. Kingfisher goes for the showstopper. Haymaker looking for a little bit more onto Fierce Sparrow. Can't find it though. Lulu will survive. The fed Lulu will not give over the shutdown. Set will fall, as will his tier 2 tower. And we're looking at Cloud Soul, 3.5 minutes at him. Gold lead over 10,000. Whew, what a game.
It's a 12,000 gold lead now, and it's really challenging to see an angle back into this game because of what we've been mentioning this entire time, this Zac
Hey,
has
Jinx got a
no
shutdown.
fear. Like, Jinx able to pick up the shutdown. It's nice, but is it enough? Because you look across the
No.
map and Lucian looking for the reset. I'm fully expecting the full Essence Reaver to come through. Very likely a Zeal as well. So this is 2.5 items now on the Lucian. And it's exactly to the win condition. Lucian thrives on being half an item or a full item ahead on their opponent, and that's exactly what's going to happen when your bad connection decides to go back to base. They could just look for a 20-minute Baron here, and realistically, even with the turn possibility, they're going to win that fight ensuing as well because of how strong they are. They're just slapping them with the wallets at this point.
Yeah, I think this is going to look pretty good. They are going to have to go for the turn. There's the Shurelya's popped. Elastic Slingshot charged up. Talus not able to get over the thick wall there. Fierce Sparrow taking a lot of damage up at the start of this one. A hot toss, and not the zap, not able to connect. That's the Slingshot onto the set.
Oh.
There's a Lantern out. Kingfisher just barely able to stay alive, but that's
Oh!
Blossom. Connect onto 4 for Queen Liar, and that's going to be Talus flying into the back line. Gets a kill onto the Victor. Jinx will fall. Both carries taken out. Rams just running for the hills. Talus not done yet, though. That's Aatrox going in. There's the showstopper into the tower, but Messiah, that's a full HP Aatrox, able to get the resets. He's underneath the inhibitor tower, and he just doesn't care. The Ignite will pick up 1 kill in the end, but that is going to be the ace coming through for DPS, and they're going to be looking for the Nexus.
And keep in mind, your bad connection still hasn't reset after the previous fight where they picked up a couple of kills. They pick up a couple more here. Messiah just gets 5 resets on the World Ender, ends up going down, but that's a worthwhile trade, and you get the middle inhibitor. Now maybe your bad connection will reset, and instead of picking up, full Essence Reaver as well as a Zeal, it's probably full Essence Reaver and a full Zeal item as well. Maybe more because they haven't reset yet. Yeah, they're sitting on 2,400 gold right now. Yeah, they're fed.
You just go Infinity Edge at this point, right?
I'm just looking at the dagger that they have, that's why.
True. Yeah, we'll have to see what Bad Connection decides to go for. I don't think ultimately it even really matters at this point what he decides to buy. It will be the Caulfields. What is that? Could that be
Building towards
something like a
Seraldo's.
Maw?
It's building towards Seraldo's, I think. As their third
makes
item.
sense.
They're just sitting on a dagger for some reason.
Okay. Yeah, well, it will be, we're looking at Cloud Soul in about a minute here, Adam. I don't think the Rams realistically can even be anywhere near that objective without losing the game. But, we'll see if they decide to try something here. They really don't have any high percentage plays yet, so it's really just a question of where you want to make your last stand.
Yeah, I think, especially since they're starting to just lose objectives as well. It's not just they're losing fights. It's been the objective game going all the way of DPS for most of this game as well. WCU Rams, they need to try and find some sort of miracle fight. They need to fight around an objective, potentially, because if you're able to win that fight, then you can turn towards getting the Baron or even this Dragon. But by the looks of it, they're just sort of stuck in their own base dealing with these minions here, and with Cloud Soul spawning in 3 seconds, I wouldn't be surprised to just see anyone walk through.
I mean, there is 1 ward in the Tri-Brush down there below the Dragon that we can see for the Rams. They have 1 ward there just outside their base, right in their bottom side jungle. They're just going to spot out anybody trying to camp in that base bush, but not nearly enough vision to make any kind of push towards this Dragon pit. And they didn't even need the Zac for it. Tala's just hanging out in the bush here, making sure that none of the Rams can get close, and that will be the Cloud Soul coming through for DPS.
That's quote-unquote Talus. That's Nico.
Oh, my mistake.
Yeah, Nico's just hanging out.
He bamboozled me.
She got you. That's exactly what Nico's all about anyways. So I think that's another thing that we've got to keep in mind. We look at the vision that has been set up by the side of WCU Rams, and it's so limited. They've got 1 ward in their jungle. They got the other one cleared out. They have no idea that they're on Baron right now. They don't have any eyes on it. They have to send multiple members to try and just scout it out, try and get any sort of vision down. And with this Nico now, you can pretend to be Talus and just walk around and always threaten any sort of engages, because they don't know it's the Nico, and the engages are just...
Okay, Fierce Sparrow gonna be face-to-face with a set here, and that is going to be the shutdown going over. Pretty big shutdown going over to Kingfisher here on the set. And 5v4 on the map now for a little while for the Rams. Don't know if they're really going to be able to get much with that. We can see Messiah pushing in on that bottom side. Please don't run it on the Victor, forced to answer. and you will be able to clear out that wave relatively easily. But the Rams, they have managed to stall out the game a little bit with that pick, Adam.
It's been stalled out slightly here. As we say that, they just go right on towards this bear, and they're finally going to pull the trigger. Well, but the fight might be more even, especially since there's no Lulu here. No massive buffs for your bad connection.
Oh, Queen Lyre able to find the root, and Kingfisher is just going to get completely blown up. Messiah now at the same time going for the dive. This Victor is so weak. He's just going to get flashed on by the Aatrox. One more auto will do it.
wait.
Find it, though. Needs the dash. He gets away from the tower. Oh, the death ray. Oh, the minions. Oh, please don't run it. Able to find the kill on the bottom side. Talus, though, into the backline once again. Jinx running out of HP. Pops the barrier. Doesn't matter. Your bad connection flashes in, picks up the kill. Dissipate now, flashing over the wall, trying to run, trying to stay alive. The Poppy, gets cold. It's a double kill for the Lucian. Now Victor trying to make a stand. He's already finished off the Aatrox. Can he defend the Nexus Tower's bad connection? He's been down all game. He's going to get pulled back by the stretchy strike. Saved by the Lantern, but a Nexus turret has fallen. Lulu going to get taken out once again here, but both Nexus turrets down now, and that's Queen Lyre with another big Pop Blossom onto 2. Oh, but your bad connection. That's a huge shutdown for this set, and that's a Lucian dead. Queen Lyre still alive, but wasn't able to finish anybody off with that Pop Blossom by herself. Kingfisher going to throw out the Haymaker here, still on the chase. Facebreaker going to pull back. Talus jumps away, and the Super Mega Death Rocket is going to send him into the passive. They're going to clean up the jungler here as well, Adam, and a 5 versus 2 on the map now for the Rams. They lost their Nexus Towers, but I think they could have a Baron angle here.
We say that, and then you just look at them backing off the base. The health bar is just a little bit too low. It's challenging because you still find a fight win, but you look at the gold difference, at least from what we can see, and it's still a 12,000 gold lead for the side of DPS. They just get a little bit too greedy, going a little bit too deep, and it's actually neither of the items that we were expecting. Not the Infinity Edge, not the Seralda's Grudge. It's the Navori Quick Blades coming through onto this solution. But regardless, 11-1 for your bad connection here. Incredibly, that is. I think everyone knew that wasn't the Zac.
Yeah.
You know, if you auto it though, it is still, you get 25 gold for it. So might have been worth it.
Yeah, but then Nico wins the moral victory.
Nico's been winning the moral victory this entire game. They're winning.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Nico's has her choice of victories basically at this point.
Exactly. Granted, now Please Don't Run It is only about 400 gold behind the Nico. The thing is, that's not really the comparison that we need to look at. We need to look at something like Talus being almost, I'm doing math on stream again, 4,000 gold up on the Poppy, and Lucian being 4,000 gold up on the Jinx. Those are the real comparisons that we need to look at because...
Okay, well, right now we're looking at another Baron start for the side of DPS, and they're doing it pretty fast. It's going down very quickly, actually. There's Kraken Slayer on the Lucian, able to make short work of the Purple Worm. Fierce Sparrow getting pulled back again, but he's able to stay alive just long enough for Nico to get in there with the Pop Blossom, and she is going to help clean up that fight. Jinx and Victor are still alive, but they're against a Baron buff on all 5 members at this point for DPS. On the run now in their own jungle. They've been cut off from the mid lane. Talus is like, I don't even want the inhibitor. I just want to get these kills. Zap will connect to Hata, though. Still forced to run. Messiah popping the World Ender. Elastic Slingshot coming in now. Victor still trying to kite it out. Has another death ray, but this Aatrox just has an obscene amount of healing. Talus goes into the Let's Bounce, and that is going to be the end of game 1, as your bad connection has had enough, and he will finish this one out in under 30 minutes. DPS with the dominant win.
Yeah, just really clean victory from DPS from start to finish. They didn't really have any doubts in their mind from the beginning. They knew that coming into this one, they were the team to be favored, and they definitely showed that while they have had a couple of hiccups along the road, that they aren't to be underestimated. And overall, a really clean victory from DPS. They're going to feel really happy going into game 2 here. And WCU Rams, they just seemed stumped. They seemed like they couldn't really find an answer for anything that DPS were doing in terms of their map movements, in terms of their micro plays. Talus had a massive game on this Zac, and I think that's the thing to be commended as well. 5-3 and 18. Your bad connection, Fierce Sparrow really carrying the weight of their team with some substitutions. So overall, DPS just showing the league why they are one of the top-ranked teams that we've had thus far.
Absolutely. Lots of great early looks, lots of great early aggression, especially from Talus and Fierce Sparrow, like you said. And for the side of the Rams, they just fell too far behind too early, everywhere except top lane, basically. And yeah, they weren't able to get to a point in the game where they were comfortable to take those 5v5 fights that the composition was kind of built for. But who do you think, Adam, was your MVP if you had to choose one person on DPS for your most valuable player here after game one? Who do you think you'd look towards?
I think I have to give it to Talus in this situation. Might be just a little bit of uh, my bias because I used to main Zac for 2 seasons. So, I love the champion and what it can do, but realistically, Talus was really the catalyst to set everything off. Your Bad Connection had a favorable lane matchup and took advantage of that lane matchup, probably to a greater extent than what we would expect, but it was almost an expected outcome to a degree from Your Bad Connection and Fear Sparrow. But Talus there really showing us why, yes, you can quote unquote counter me with the Poppy jungle, but you cannot keep up with my pacing. Talus was everywhere on the map, and Dissipate was always sort of behind the play, playing catch up onto Talus, and that really showed. It was just jungle diff. That's the sort of stuff that you just put in all chat at the end, be like GG jungle diff. And
Love
realistically,
it.
Talus has the right to do that here. Had a great game on that Zac and had the highest kill participation as well. So realistically, got to give him credit.
Yeah, no argument here. And, Your Bad Connection, you mentioned the dominant laning performance on the Lucian, but he was able to have that performance in part, right? Because Zac was always there to dive the enemy bottom lane underneath their tower. He did it so many times. So, little love for the jungler. I absolutely love it. Big fan. And the Rams, they need a couple of minutes to regroup. So, we're going to be going to a short break, guys, but we'll have game two right after this. See if the Rams can bounce back or if DPS will finish strong with another 2-0. Don't go anywhere.